If you're in New York, don't move to Cogstein Apartments. I thought it would be a cheap way to live as an adult in the city, but it was a mistake I'm begging you not to make yourself. I hadn't lived in the apartment very long, about a week, before I saw her. At first, I thought she was just confused or messed up in the head. There were a lot of interesting people in our building. It's better to ignore others unless they get in your face. Yet as I saw her more often, I realized that something was seriously wrong. She wasn't just some lost soul, she was a nightmare. The first time I saw her, I was walking back from the elevator to my apartment around midnight. My room, 701, was at the end of the long, repetitive hallway. In fact, there wasn't much difference between this place and the dorms I'd just moved from. It depressed me most nights, but the night I saw her, I didn't feel sad. I felt a rush of fear. She was standing at the window opposite to my door, her long black hair blocking out her face. I silently approached, trying to avoid any interaction with my neighbors until I was about 10 feet away from her. She hadn't moved an inch. I had to say something. Not acknowledging her weirdness would be even more awkward than making small talk. Hello? No response. Are you okay? I asked, coming up next to her. Her face was still pressed against the glass, looking down into the darkness below us. She was dressed in white with grime smudged all over. I guessed she was around my age, but her hands were gnarly and varicose, as if they'd survived many years of grasping at life. Okay, well, I'm gonna go. Let me know if you need something. My apartment is 701, which I guess you could have figured out. I cringed at my inability to be normal as I fumbled with the keys. Jump! I almost dropped my keys. The voice came from within my head and yet clearly from the girl. I didn't know how to, or even if I should try to respond. She hadn't moved from her spot. I didn't, couldn't, form words or thoughts. Thankfully, my door opened a few seconds later. I slammed it behind me, not willing to have an unwelcome guest in my house this late. My girlfriend came out from the bedroom, already pissed. Hey, she paused, noticing my distress. What's wrong? I explained the interaction to her. She asked if I thought the girl was hotter than her, if I was late because I got back from fucking this girl. Sarah, please, this isn't the time for one of your moments. Look! I pointed to the peephole. She went over, glaring at me. I don't see anything, Daniel, you fucking liar. I ran over, pushing her out of the way, and looked. There was nothing to see except blackness. That's not... I don't know how... Tomorrow I'm going to clean the peephole. It's covered with muck or something. Otherwise you'd be able to see her. Yeah. Well, I'm going to open this door. And if there isn't anyone out there, I swear to God you'll pay. There was no one outside, just a window that allowed us to peer down to the buildings below. It was a long night, and still the woman's voice echoed through my mind. A week after that, Sarah and I had a huge fight. I stormed out of the apartment, determined to find a couch to crash on. I hadn't been able to forget about that woman, nor get her voice out of my head. The word jump repeated itself in my brain. It acted like a sedative, lulling me into sleep, disconnecting me from the world. I'm sure Sarah had noticed. Why else would she have become so quarrelsome? But I lacked the energy to defend myself. I hadn't even seen the women again. She wouldn't have believed me anyway. I pounded the elevator's down button, making sure every single object, animate or not, felt my rage. The door opened instantly and my blood froze. The woman was there in the corner, her back facing me. Her clothes were even more mottled than before. Hey! No response. The elevator doors closed. I pressed the first floor button absent-mindedly. My previous frustration, temporarily replaced with shock, came flooding back. Why are you in the corner? No response. Irritated, I reached out to grab her. I'd hoped to turn her around, to force her to acknowledge me. Instead of projecting power, I yelped. Her skin was as cold as dry ice. My skin turned red in the semi-familiar burning, freezing sensation that such a substance emits. Jump. The voice rang out, loud within and around me. It was beautiful and haunting and commanding at the same time. Hearing her again felt like a head rush. At the same time, fear gripped me. When the doors opened, I rushed out of there. She stayed put. She hadn't pushed a button. The whole elevator emanated a sort of malicious, controlling energy. Even as I hurried for the exit, I couldn't resist looking behind me while the elevator closed and took her somewhere else. Sarah and I made up rather quickly, but I delayed heading back to the apartment. I just knew that I'd see that woman as soon as I went back home. Somehow her grip over me extended only to the entrance of the building. I tried forgetting the enticing zap that I felt upon touching her, as if our synapses fired together, as if I might be able to understand her, to become hers. It was no use. Sarah wanted me back and I obeyed, a part of me yearning to be consumed by the building's ghost. A part of me wanted to jump. A few days later, I was hauling stuff up and down to furnish our apartment properly. The elevator was still on the fritz, so I had to use the grey cement stairs, the ones every building in New York has, the ones littered with stains of blood and gum and tar. At Sarah's command, I was tossing out the nightstand that carried me through college. It was a bulky thing. I was barely able to see above it. Still, I knew the second that I pushed open the door that something was off. The girl was standing on the landing above me. Her back was towards me again. My heart dropped, but I told myself, I'll just carry this down. She'll be gone by the time I'm back. Down 7 flights of stairs, slowly stepping 1 foot at a time, careful not to make noise. For whatever reason, I didn't want her to know that I was in the same vicinity as her. Still, every atom in me ached to see her, to turn around and run up to her. Down, down, down I travelled. 7 flights of stairs is more work than it seems, but finally I reached the bottom. I set down the nightstand at the base of the stairs and turned around. Fuck! I jumped back, unable to believe my eyes. She was there, still turned away from me. I wanted to push open the back doors and run. I wanted to scream out to Sarah. I wanted to see her face. Jump! Suddenly my whole body tensed up. Jump! My legs started moving, following hers. Jump! She began leading me up, clearly intent on going all the way up to the roof. Her legs barely moved. She seemed to float rather than walk. All the while I wanted to break away, to ignore the siren voice echoing within me. I didn't want to jump. I didn't want to follow her. I just wanted to go back to my apartment and jump into bed. I wanted everything to be normal. I hated this thing, but at the same time I was enamored. Her hair glistened in the fluorescent light. Her skin, white like alabaster, glowed. Even her clothes, dirtier than ever, made me want to offer myself to her. I was a desperate man. "Who are you?" I begged. "Why?" She reached a bony hand to me, still hiding her face. Instead of the sub-zero chill I felt upon touching her, this contact squeezed me. Each limb was contracting, each muscle exploding with pressure. It was agonizing beyond belief. I wanted to beg her to stop, but the thought of speaking in the face of such pain seemed impossible. We reached the door to the roof and she finally dropped her hand. I wanted it back on me so bad. Below me, the door to the stairs opened. "Daniel, what's taking so—" Oh, I see what's going on here." Sarah's voice was laced with rage. I could hear her storming up the stairs. The door crashed open and I could feel the breeze, the slight chill of fall. I felt the gloomy sky, leaden with clouds. Its intense brightness temporarily blinded me. Jump. She walked, glided really to the edge, and I followed. The people shrunk like ants. The cars were the size of cake crumbs. Queasiness overtook me. Jump. My right leg stepped onto the ledge. Phew. What the fuck is going on here? In 2 seconds, the course of my life changed. Sarah's scream broke the spell over my body. The woman turned. I ran. Sarah did not. Instead, she began walking towards the ledge. That's the story of my time in New York. As soon as the funeral was over, I left for the Midwest. A part of me resents Sarah. A part of me thanks her for my life. A very small part of me still misses her. My life is fine. It's as good as can be expected. I live in a 1-story house with my mom. She ignores the way the past still scares me. She understands my fear of heights, my continued lack of a girlfriend, even the way that I sometimes mutter to myself that one damned word. She doesn't understand the need for a nightlight. But of course, she never saw the woman's face. She never saw the eyes that leaked blackness, that absorbed all light, that ate happiness. She never saw the way they grew and moved on her face, the way they stretched as large as my hands. She never saw the anger of the darkness. A part of me will always search for those eyes that pulled my soul out of me. She had never wanted to jump. A part of me will always want to jump.